At first light on the dry savanna, an adult honey badger steps into the open. Hunger drives every single morning step. Emerging from a dirt burrow beneath a dead acacia, the low-slung predator tests the wind for the slightest trace of scent. With eyesight tuned to movement and a nose reading invisible trails, it senses that yesterday's territory offers very little nourishment. Moving steadily across the baked earth from left to right, its heavy curved claws leave deep impressions in the pale dust. Its front paws begin tearing into the hard-packed soil, tossing dry dirt backward in a desperate search for buried beetles. A solitary armored scorpion is uncovered beneath a flat stone, instantly seized and swallowed whole with barely a pause. Few insects cannot sustain an animal with such a burning metabolism. It needs substantial meat to survive the blazing day. Pausing beside a weathered granite outcrop, it raises its head, surveying the vast grassland stretching toward the distant dry kopjes. A sudden heavy musk catches in the morning breeze. Something thick, cold-blooded, and dangerously potent rests in the dry brush ahead. Following wide serpentine S-curves pressed fresh into the dust, the badger lowers its snout and quickens its trot along the ridge. Coiled silently beside dry grass clumps lies a heavy puff adder, its chevron-patterned scales blending perfectly with the sunlit ground. Where other predators would turn away in caution, the honey badger advances directly toward Africa's most notorious strike. The viper puffs its thick body, hissing a deep warning as the badger circles smoothly from the left flank. The snake lashes out with lightning speed, but thick, loose skin and instant reflexes allow the badger to absorb the graze. Closing the gap instantly, powerful jaws clamp down right behind the venomous head, securing the first major prize of the morning. Starting from the head, the honey badger crushes the venom glands first, neutralizing the lethal payload before consuming the rest. Tearing steadily into the dense muscle of the viper, it feeds ravenously across the dusty ground, wasting nothing of the prize. Bone and tough scales are effortlessly pulverized by heavy molars designed specifically to crack through dense reptilian hide and hard chitin. Within minutes, the entire 90-centimeter viper disappears down its throat, leaving only faint scuff marks pressed into the dry savanna dirt. A trace of venom has entered its bloodstream through minor scratches, causing its eyelids to droop with temporary neurotoxic heaviness. It slumps against a dry boulder, entering a brief metabolic coma while specialized cellular receptors neutralize the circulating toxins. Shaking its coarse mantle vigorously, the honey badger snaps back to full alertness, completely immune to the snake's lethal venom. As the morning sun climbs higher into the pale blue sky, the rising heat begins to bake the open plains. Fully recharged, the restless nomad resumes its territorial march, heading toward the central termite plains where other creatures forage. In the open distance, a sprawling meerkat colony goes about its morning routine, sunning their bellies near their burrow mounds. Perched high on a weathered mound, a lone sentinel meerkat stands upright, scanning the surrounding grass for aerial and ground threats. Its dark-ringed eyes instantly catch the unmistakable low-slung black and silver silhouette trotting steadily across the open, dusty flat. With a sharp, piercing alarm bark, the sentinel sends the entire clan diving underground into the safety of their labyrinths. The honey badger ambles past the vacated mounds without a second glance, indifferent to prey too small to be worth excavating. Ahead lie the dense acacia thickets and drying riverbeds, where much larger shadows begin to stir under the midday heat. Under the blazing midday sun, the honey badger enters a drier territory dominated by towering, ancient red earth cathedral termite mounds. A decaying acacia trunk lies half-buried in the dust, its hollow interior packed with wood-boring grubs and rich insect fat. However, a troop of banded mongooses has already staked a claim, actively tearing away bark to feed on the same larvae. The dominant mongoose leaps onto the trunk, bearing sharp teeth and emitting shrill chatter to ward off the incoming heavyweight. Unmoved by numbers or noise, the honey badger barrels straight ahead, scattering the nimble troop with pure physical mass. Long, steel-strong claws rip through the rotten hardwood like paper, tearing open the secret galleries where massive larvae hide. Picking up the fat white grubs with rapid strokes, it secures an effortless meal rich in moisture and concentrated energy. Leaving the empty log behind, It pushes deeper toward the towering red termite fortress, standing like a monument on the plain. Suddenly, the honey badger halts. Pressed deeply into the soft red dust lies a footprint far larger than its own. A fresh lion pug mark, wide as a dinner plate, still holds crisp edges in the sand, indicating an apex predator nearby. Rather than fleeing, the honey badger bristles its coarse white mantle, backing its rear against the solid clay of the mound. From across the shimmering horizon comes a deep, guttural roar that vibrates through the earth, signaling a pride on the prowl. Deep within the cracked foundations of the mound, the subterranean vibrations disturb millions of dormant African driver ants resting in darkness. Unaware of the awakening swarm beneath its paws, the badger chooses the termite mound as its tactical fortress against the approaching pride. With noon burning overhead, the stage is set for a collision between savanna royalty, an immovable badger, and an unstoppable hidden army. Across the shimmering heat mirage, 3 tawny predators emerge onto the rocky ridge, their golden eyes locked on the open plains. A young male lion with developing blonde mane and a claw scar across his nose lowers his gaze toward the badger below. Reading the shift in the wind, the honey badger turns and makes a calculated retreat toward the nearby drying mud waterhole. The receding waterhole is a desolate expanse of cracked gray clay, where surviving animals gather under the oppressive midday heat. Trekking across the parched mud flats from left to right, the badger approaches the shallow pool to quench its mounting thirst. Kneeling at the murky water's edge, an adult warthog slurps the muddy residue, its sharp, curved tusks caked in dry silt. With a broken left tusk and bristly mane, the warthog snorts defensively as the low-slung intruder enters its immediate watering space. Standing firm on the cracked mud, neither animal yields, creating a tense standoff over a few precious mouthfuls of warm water. Ignoring the warthog's bluff charges, the honey badger deliberately shoulders past, demanding its rightful turn at the scarce liquid resource. Lapping rapidly at the thick, silted water, the badger absorbs essential hydration, maintaining stamina for the ordeal looming on the horizon. Suddenly, the warthog jerks its head upward, catching an unmistakable apex predator scent drifting down from the surrounding rocky ridges. Spinning around with its thin, tufted tail held straight upright, the warthog bolts across the mud flats in frantic escape. The honey badger turns to watch the fleeing prey, realizing that the savanna's true rulers have finally closed the perimeter. Stepping silently onto the dusty clay banks, the young male lion and 2 lionesses take up positions, blocking all easy exits. Trapped in the open mud basin, the solitary badger turns to face 3 massive feline hunters under the scorching afternoon sun. Massive hooked claws extend slightly from padded paws, gripping dry clay plates as the big cat tests the intruder's resolve. Lowering its skull, the badger unleashes a harsh, rattling roar, flashing sharp ivory teeth backed by an unbreakable fighting spirit. The young lion lunges forward with a heavy swipe, but the badger's loose, rubbery skin absorbs the concussive blow completely. Twisting inside its pliable hide, the badger snaps viciously toward the lion's sensitive nose, forcing the giant to leap back. Shocked by the sheer ferocity of the counterattack, the young predator stumbles back, shaking dust from his whiskered snout. From the elevated ridge, the experienced lionesses watch closely, unwilling to risk injury against an opponent with no quit. Knowing it cannot fight open plains on 3 fronts, the badger initiates a disciplined retreat toward defensible ground. Scrambling up the steep clay embankment, it keeps its lethal rear defended while never taking its eyes off the stalkers. The young lion follows at a cautious distance, intrigued by the prey that refused to run like an antelope. Emerging back onto the red, scorched plain, the badger fixes its sights on the massive termite cathedral rising ahead. Spreading across the dusty red expanse, the 3 big cats accelerate their pace, eager to trap their stubborn target. Digging its heavy front claws deep into the baked red soil, the honey badger surges into a desperate final dash. Slamming its muscular back against the fortress wall of the mound, the solitary warrior turns to face the pride once more. Cornered against the ancient clay mound, the badger braces for impact, unaware that the real battle is about to erupt from beneath. The young male lion flexes his hindquarters to pounce, while the badger digs in, refusing to give an inch of ground. Beneath their paws, the sun-baked clay foundation suddenly ruptures, splitting wide into deep subterranean fissures as the mound shudders. Boiling out from the dark cracks comes a relentless black tide of driver ants, snapping their razor-sharp mandibles at everything alive. The vanguard of the ant army instantly swarms over the lion's soft paw pads, sinking hundreds of pincers into tender flesh. A sudden shock of intense, burning pain shoots through the big cat, instantly shattering his predatory focus into total disarray. Roaring in agony, the young lion recoils, frantically stomping and shaking his heavy paws to dislodge the biting swarm. The two lionesses are quickly overwhelmed as black columns of ants surge up their flanks, forcing them to leap back. Ants crawl rapidly across the honey badger, but its dense underfur and 6mm thick rubbery hide form an impenetrable barrier. Vicious scissor-like jaws snap relentlessly against the badger's coarse silver mantle, failing completely to reach the sensitive skin beneath. Sensing the predator's panic, the badger shifts instantly from desperate defense to ruthless, opportunistic aggression against the broken pride. Lunging forward with a ferocious, rattling roar, the fearless warrior charges straight into the confusion of the retreating lions. Blinded by stinging bites and terror, the young male lion turns tail and sprints away across the dusty red plain. The two lionesses scatter into the dry scrub, abandoning the hunt in complete defeat before the miniature six-legged army. With a violent shudder of its muscular torso, the badger shakes loose the few ants clinging to its coarse coat. Standing alone atop the fractured mound as late amber light paints the savanna, the honey badger claims total victory today. As the crimson sun sinks below the flat horizon, the honey badger carefully climbs down the mound, seeking overnight shelter. Navigating through the fading blue twilight, it reaches a deep granite fissure that offers total protection against nocturnal prowlers. Squeezing into the narrow granite crevice, the badger enters a natural fortress impervious to even the largest savanna predators. Curling tightly on the cool sand floor, its eyes close as its exhausted body begins repairing cellular fatigue. Outside, the savanna rests under a canopy of brilliant stars, where nocturnal hunters wander harmlessly past the impenetrable stone fort. A new dawn breaks over the African wild, painting the granite kopjes in brilliant gold and dispelling the chill of night. Emerging from the deep crevice fully restored, the honey badger steps onto the sunlit rock, ready for another day of exploration. Sniffing the brisk northern breeze, it detects rich green vegetation and heavy animal tracks leading toward the distant riverine floodplains. Trotting purposefully from left to right, the badger sets out across the dew-sprinkled grass, leaving yesterday's battlefield far behind. Ahead lies a richer savanna corridor, where denser acacia scrub and seasonal water pockets support a diverse array of wildlife. Striding through the open clearing is a secretary bird, an iconic ground hunter searching the dry grass for concealed reptiles. With explosive speed, it delivers a lightning-fast kick, crushing a hiding lizard beneath its heavily scaled foot with pinpoint lethal accuracy. Watching from the shaded thicket, the honey badger respects the tall raptor's lethal prowess and quietly maintains its own path. Following a wide, trampled corridor through the scrub, the badger enters the territory of the savanna's largest and most formidable herbivores. Stopping at a massive three-toed footprint freshly stamped in the mud, the badger senses that giants are grazing just beyond the trees. Stepping through the thorny scrub into an open depression, the honey badger enters the grazing grounds of Africa's ancient giants. Towering like an armored monolith over the dry grass stands a massive white rhinoceros, chewing steadily under the bright morning sun. With two heavy horns on its snout and thick folded skin, the giant swivels tubular ears toward the approaching black intruder. Unintimidated by the 3-ton behemoth, the badger continues its forward march, maintaining a straight course along the dusty game trail. The rhino exhales an explosive snort, stomping a massive 3-toed foot in a brief warning display that shakes the pale earth. Bristling its silver-white mantle and holding firm, the honey badger refuses to yield, proving once again that size means nothing here. Realizing the tiny creature poses no real threat, the colossal herbivore lowers its head and peacefully resumes tearing dry grass tufts. Passing the grazing rhino without incident, the restless nomad approaches a muddy drainage channel where a Cape buffalo herd gathers. A battle-scarred old bull with chipped horn tips watches from the mud, chewing placidly as the fearless mustelid approaches the bank. Weaving effortlessly between the resting bovids, the badger inspects the wet mud margins for protein-rich amphibians and hidden burrowing freshwater crabs. The buffalo barely flinch, accustomed to small creatures that pick through the trampled soil around their heavy, mud-caked resting spots. Spotting a fresh burrow near the water's edge, the badger's claws tear open the soft clay, extracting a fat freshwater crab. Crushing the hard carapace with effortless jaw power, it devours the succulent meal, fueling its relentless territorial journey across the savanna. As midday heat peaks over the mudflats, distant vulture shadows circle overhead, hinting that danger is stirring once again across the plains. Leaving the crowded waterhole behind, the honey badger tracks a distinct scent trail leading across the dry savanna toward a solitary dead tree. High in the skeletal branches of a dead acacia sits a massive stick nest, constructed by a pair of lappet-faced vultures. Recognizing the opportunity for protein-rich eggs, the predator circles the base, inspecting the dry bark for a secure climbing route. With astonishing agility for its heavy build, the honey badger sinks its long, curved digging claws into the weathered hardwood trunk. Each muscular pull lifts its stocky body upward, relying on sheer claw strength and powerful forelimbs to scale the vertical tree. Hauling itself onto the wide rim of the stick fortress, the intruder discovers a single, enormous mottled white vulture egg inside. Cracking the thick eggshell with sharp canine teeth, it quickly laps up the rich, nutrient-dense yolk before the owner's return. Rich albumin and golden yolk provide an instant surge of concentrated calories, fueling its boundless energy under the scorching sun. Suddenly, a piercing screech pierces the sky as an apex aerial predator, the formidable martial eagle, dives in to investigate. With a 2-meter wingspan and massive razor-sharp talons, the eagle sweeps low over the tree, viewing the robber as an intruder. Balancing precariously on the bare branch, the badger rears back and snaps its jaws upward in fierce defiance against the diving raptor. The eagle swoops with whistling wingtips, but the badger twists its tough mantle, refusing to be dislodged from the wooden perch. Realizing the high branches offer poor leverage, the clever mustelid scrambles rapidly down the trunk, returning to solid earth. Hitting the red dirt with all 4 paws, it shakes off the bark dust and reclaims its unstoppable ground advantage. Unable to strike effectively on open ground, the eagle circles away, leaving the satisfied raider to march toward the dry river valley. Descending the steep earthen bank, the honey badger steps into a wide, dry riverbed shaded by giant, overhanging fig trees. Deep, pale sand crunches underfoot as the relentless wanderer follows the winding dry watercourse in search of buried moisture and scent. Long, curved claws scoop away powdery white sand, unearthing moist roots that hold valuable sips of cool water deep below ground. Ahead near the riverbank roots, a Temminck's ground pangolin excavates an underground ant nest, its hard keratin armor clicking softly. Covered from head to tail in overlapping brown scales, the prehistoric mammal continues digging, aware of the incoming black and white predator. As the badger draws near, the pangolin tucks its head inward, coiling into a tight, impenetrable ball of solid keratin armor. The honey badger scratches the armored sphere and bites at the hard scales, finding zero purchase on the locked ball. Recognizing that this living fortress cannot be breached, the badger simply walks past, leaving the coiled pangolin completely unharmed behind. Suddenly, a rich scent of fresh blood and predator musk drifts down through the leafy branches of an overhanging wild fig. High on a thick horizontal branch rests an adult leopard, guarding a freshly cached impala carcass draped over the wooden fork. With rosette-patterned fur and piercing amber eyes, the big cat glares down, letting out a deep, saw-like territorial warning rasp. Standing in the sandy riverbed below, the badger bristles its silver mantle and snarls back, fearless but tactically aware of height. Climbing into a leopard's personal canopy is unnecessary risk, especially when scraps of meat have fallen onto the sand below. Scooping up a fallen piece of fresh bone and meat, the badger crunches the prize quickly beneath the leopard's watchful gaze. With belly replenished, the indomitable nomad climbs out of the dry riverbed, heading back toward the vast open termite plains. Emerging from the riverbank corridor, the honey badger enters a windswept plain where dust devils begin swirling under the blazing afternoon sun. Trotting across the cracked earth from left to right, it lowers its head as dry gusts sweep across the open grassland. Nostrils testing the warm wind, the badger detects the musky presence of a highly coordinated pack hunting across the open territory. Fanning out across the horizon, a pack of African wild dogs moves with relentless speed, scanning the plains for vulnerable targets. The lead wild dog pauses atop a low ridge, its massive rounded ears rotating to catch distant footsteps in the dust. With a mottled tricolor coat and alert amber eyes, the pack leader spots the solitary black and white figure below. Spreading into a wide flanking formation across the dry earth, the pack accelerates, closing the distance with silent predatory efficiency. Halting in its tracks, the honey badger drops its low-slung body, refusing to trigger a chase reflex by turning to run. Bristling its silver mantle, the mustelid curls its dark lips, flashing sharp canine teeth in a fierce display of territorial defiance. Two agile wild dogs dart in from the flanks, attempting to encircle the badger while testing its defensive reach with feigned lunges. Spinning violently within its loose rubbery hide, the badger lunges forward with a rattling snarl, snapping at the nearest agile attacker. Steel-strong jaws snap shut with bone-crushing force, warning the nimble canids that any direct strike will exact a severe, painful price. Suddenly, a swirling dust devil sweeps across the arid clearing, blinding the hunters in a vortex of red, stinging savanna sand. Disoriented by the blinding dust and unwilling to risk crippling injuries, the wild dogs scatter, breaking off the confrontation in haste. As the dust settles, the victorious badger marches forward through the haze, advancing back toward the central red termite plains. Following a persistent high-pitched hum across the clearing, the honey badger approaches the base of an ancient hollow baobab tree. Inside the sheltered wooden hollow lies a thriving colony of wild African honeybees, guarding combs rich in sweet amber honey. For an animal whose very name reflects its greatest passion, the scent of fresh comb and bee larvae is completely irresistible. Climbing onto the trunk, the badger uses its massive curved claws to rip open the rotten wood, exposing the nest. Long steel claws dislodge enormous sheets of golden honeycomb, dripping with pure amber nectar and packed with fat, nutritious bee larvae. Thousands of furious African bees swarm its head, sinking hundreds of stingers into its coarse coat in a desperate defensive assault. Yet its 6mm rubbery hide and dense underfur form an impenetrable armor, rendering the venomous stings completely harmless and ineffective. Ignoring the frantic cloud of insects, the fearless raider buries its snout into the golden comb, chewing hungrily with total satisfaction. High-energy carbohydrates from pure honey combined with fatty proteins from bee brood provide an unmatched nutritional boost for the relentless nomad. Dropping to the ground, it shakes its entire body violently, sending loose bark, honey drops, and confused bees scattering away. With energy levels restored to their absolute peak, the invincible warrior turns its attention back toward its central home territory. Trotting purposefully across the baked red plains from left to right, it returns toward the towering cathedral termite mound. Underground, the deep fissures around the mound vibrate with intense subterranean movement as millions of driver ants prepare to mobilize. On the distant ridge, the three lions have regrouped, their burning amber eyes locked once more upon their stubborn adversary below. Backed against the ancient fortress as sunset approaches, the badger stands fearless, poised on the threshold of an epic final survival showdown. As shadows stretch long across the savanna, the pride descends from the rocky ridge, advancing steadily toward the ancient mound. Moving in low, coordinated silence, the three predators spread across the golden grass, determined to settle the score before nightfall. An experienced lioness drops low to the baked clay, her amber gaze fixed intently on the black and white figure below. From the base of the termite fortress, the honey badger watches their deliberate approach, completely unyielding in its chosen ground. Its long digging claws press deep into the red earth, angering its stocky body as adrenaline surges through its veins. Fanning out into a tight, lethal crescent, the lions close the perimeter to 15 meters under the glowing sunset sky. The young male lion rumbles a deep territorial growl, his scarred muzzle tightening as he takes the lead position. one lioness darts forward on the right flank, attempting to cut off any possible escape into the surrounding scrub. Reacting instantly, the badger launches a ferocious mock charge, barking a harsh, rattling roar that freezes the lioness in place. Its jaws snap with explosive violence in the dust, warning the big cats that every inch of ground will cost blood. Seizing the opening, the young male lion lunges from the blind side, attempting a heavy downward swipe with extended claws. Thick, rubbery neck hide shifts and stretches under the blow, completely deflecting the razor claws without puncturing vital tissue beneath. Twisting inside its loose skin, the badger counters with lightning speed, snapping directly at the lion's front paw ankle. The young male yelps in alarm and springs backward, his frustration mounting against an adversary that simply cannot be pinned. Trapped at close range under the crimson twilight, the badger braces for the final assault as the earth vibrates beneath. Beneath the standoff, the dry clay foundation cracks open violently, releasing a deafening hiss of shifting red dust. Millions of aggressive black driver ants pour out of subterranean fissures, flooding the red ground like a living tide. The biting carpet expands across the clearing in seconds, snapping curved pincers at every warm-blooded creature in reach. Thousands of soldier ants swarm over the lion's soft paw pads, sinking razor-sharp mandibles into sensitive nerve endings. Roaring in agony, the young lion leaps upward, frantically stomping and shaking his heavy paws to dislodge the biting swarm. The two lionesses are immediately overrun as black columns surge up their legs, throwing the coordinated pride into absolute chaos. Ants crawl relentlessly over the honey badger, but scissor-like mandibles slide harmlessly off its 6mm thick rubbery hide. Protected by impenetrable armor and dense underfur, the solitary warrior remains completely calm amidst the raging insect storm. Seeing his powerful adversaries crippled by miniature attackers, the badger instantly seizes the moment to launch a ferocious counteroffensive. Charging directly across the crawling ant carpet, the honey badger lunges forward with a terrifying, explosive, rattling roar. The fearless raider snaps viciously at the lion's distracted snout, turning the big cat's confusion into sheer, unadulterated panic. Overwhelmed by burning stings and the furious badger, the young male breaks rank, sprinting away in humiliated retreat across the plain. The lionesses scatter in opposite directions, abandoning the battlefield completely as the unstoppable ant army claims the clearing. With a violent shudder of its muscular torso, the badger shakes loose stray insects, completely unscathed by the double assault. Standing victorious atop the fractured earth under the crimson sunset, the honey badger proves once more that endurance conquers raw strength. As darkness cloaks the savanna, the honey badger begins its nocturnal patrol, entering the cooler hours of the African night. Under a brilliant canopy of stars and clear moonlight, the solitary hunter navigates the rugged granite outcrops with effortless confidence. Its moist black nostrils flare in the crisp air, detecting a sharp, musty odor drifting from a nearby stone crevice. Strewn across the sandy entrance of the rocky cave lie several long black and white banded quills, signaling a heavily armored resident. Emerging from the darkness is an adult crested porcupine, instantly raising hundreds of hollow, razor-sharp quills into a formidable rattling shield. These formidable keratin spears can detach on impact, driving deep into predator flesh with backward-facing microscopic barbs. Halting 2 meters away, the honey badger carefully evaluates the bristling wall of spears, recognizing an adversary with exceptional defense. With a loud rattle, the porcupine executes a rapid reverse charge, stumping backward to drive its armored rear into the intruder. Sidestepping with fluid grace, the honey badger avoids the lunging spines easily, refusing to engage in an unprofitable conflict. True survival wisdom is knowing when not to fight. The badger simply turns and trots toward easier foraging opportunities nearby. Under the soft moonlight, its front claws dig into a sandy pocket, unearthing a cache of fat subterranean bush crickets. Crunching the crispy insects with effortless jaw power, the badger consumes vital protein to sustain its continuous nocturnal journey. Climbing onto a broad, cool granite slab, it settles down for a brief rest beneath the vast, glowing Milky Way. In the heart of the wilderness, even the fiercest survivor takes time to recharge before another challenging day begins. 30 minutes of relentless challenges have tested this fearless soul, Yet tomorrow's rising sun will bring even greater trials across the plains. Dawn breaks over the dry savanna, but the rising sun glows an ominous blood red through thick, drifting plumes of smoke. Awakening on the granite ledge, the honey badger flares its dark nostrils, instantly catching the sharp scent of burning grass. Driven by blistering winds, a massive dry-season bushfire sweeps rapidly across the bleached plains, consuming everything in its fiery path. Flocks of birds and herds of grazing antelopes flee in panic across the scorched dirt ahead of the advancing smoke. Rather than succumbing to blind panic, the veteran survivor assesses the wind direction and plans a calculated escape route below. Scrambling down the steep granite rocks, it heads toward the natural fire breaks of the wide, sandy riverbed corridor ahead. Trotting across the dry plain, hot embers and gray ash rain down around its paws as smoke darkens the sky. A shallow dirt burrow ahead proves unusable, choked with billowing smoke and frantic rodents fleeing from the underground heat. Yet the fire creates opportunity. Stunned lizards and fleeing insects emerge from the burning grass directly into the badger's path. Seizing a fleeing monitor lizard with lightning jaws, it devours the rich protein on the run, fueling its stamina. Suddenly, a ferocious gust of wind whips a blazing wall of orange fire directly across the dry game trail. Bracing its stocky frame, the badger charges through a narrow gap of burning grass, thick skin shielding it from heat. Breaking through the flames, it reaches the safety of already burnt black earth, where the fire can no longer spread. Shaking thick gray soot and ash from its silver-white mantle, the indomitable creature stands unscathed on the scorched plain. Standing amidst the smoking black landscape, the honey badger pauses, looking toward the distant oasis where new challenges await. Crossing the scorched perimeter, the honey badger enters a lush riverine oasis where remaining water attracts the savanna's desperate survivors. Approaching the green marshy rim, the thirsty predator moves with heightened caution, scanning the murky surface for hidden aquatic dangers. Lowering its black snout near the damp reeds, its nostrils read invisible scent trails drifting across the still green water. Beneath the floating green algae, a pair of ancient, cold yellow slit eyes slowly breaks the glassy surface without a ripple. A 4-meter Nile crocodile hovers motionless in the shallows, its heavily armored scutes blending perfectly with the dark, muddy bank. Reading subtle pressure waves along the water's edge, the honey badger tenses, freezing inches before the lethal ambush zone. Exploding from the murky depths, the crocodile lunges forward, spraying muddy water in a lightning-fast bid to drag the target under. Twisting with instantaneous reflexes, the badger leaps backward onto the dry mud bank, narrowly clearing the snapping armored snout. Enormous conical teeth clamp shut with bone-cracking force, slamming together on empty air in a loud, concussive snap. Separated by 2 meters of mud, the two prehistoric survivors lock eyes in a tense standoff at the water's edge. Circling deliberately along the bank, the honey badger bristles its silver mantle, refusing to retreat from the essential water source. The reptile lashes its muscular, armored tail across the mud, hissing a deep, guttural warning across the humid oasis air. Lowering its skull with bared fangs, the badger unleashes a fierce, rattling roar, demonstrating unbreakable defiance against aquatic supremacy. Realizing the armored mustelid will not become an easy kill, the cold-blooded predator glides backward into deep, murky safety. Leaving the lush oasis behind, the honey badger enters a narrow granite gorge flanked by towering, sun-baked red rock walls. Trotting across the shaded canyon floor from left to right, its nose detects a heavy, cold-blooded reptilian musk among the boulders. Pausing near a deep stone fissure, the badger flares dark nostrils, pinpointing a massive predator coiled in the cool shadow. Coiled between weathered red granite slabs lies a 4-meter African rock python, its thick, blotched body blending with the rock. With a dark spearhead marking on its crown, the giant snake raises its triangular head, tasting the air with a flickering tongue. Where other animals would retreat in terror, the fearless mustelid advances directly into the narrow crevice to confront the serpent. The python strikes with explosive power, lunging across the stone with curved teeth aimed directly at the badger's throat. Twisting inside its loose rubbery hide, the badger slips past the direct strike, avoiding the snake's lethal initial constriction wrap. Massive muscular coils attempt to encircle its torso, but the tough, slippery skin rolls freely, preventing any suffocating grip. Countering with lightning speed, the badger clamps its powerful jaws directly behind the python's skull, locking down in a bone-crushing grip. Heavy molars grind through thick scales and vertebrae, subduing the massive constrictor through sheer jaw power and relentless determination. The giant python's heavy muscular coils slacken on the rock, conceding victory to the savanna's most fearless subterranean predator. Pinned to the cool granite slab, the prize provides an immense feast of dense reptilian protein, replenishing the badger's stamina. Licking its dark jaws clean in the late afternoon light, the victor shakes loose scale dust and readies for the journey. Emerging from the rocky canyon into golden amber sunlight, the honey badger sets its sights on the distant cathedral termite fortress. Returning to the vast termite plains, the honey badger approaches the ancient cathedral mound under a glowing crimson-amber sunset sky. Stopping at the cracked clay base, it senses strange vibrations trembling through the earth, while apex predator scent fills the air. With ears pinned alertly and nostrils flaring, the fearless creature turns to confront the familiar tawny shadows emerging across the plain. Stepping deliberately through the dry grass, 3 African lions close the perimeter from multiple angles, cutting off all open escape routes. The young male lion paces forward with his scarred muzzle held low, his blonde mane catching the rich, late afternoon sunlight. Massive padded paws press firmly into the dry red clay as sharp curved claws extend in readiness for the final coordinated strike. Refusing to flee across open ground, the badger presses its muscular back against the solid clay buttress of the towering mound. Long digging claws hook deeply into the baked earth, anchoring its stocky body as adrenaline surges through its compact, muscular frame. The perimeter tightens to 5 meters, the 2 lionesses dropping into low stalking stances on the left and right flanks. An experienced lioness curls her lips in a low, menacing growl, amber eyes locked intently on the small black and white defender. Lowering its skull, the badger unleashes a terrifying rattling roar, bristling its coarse silver mantle to double its perceived physical size. Sharp white canine teeth snap shut with concussive force in the dusty air, issuing an unyielding warning to the encircling pride. Beneath their feet, deep stress fractures in the clay foundation begin splitting wide, sending trickles of red silt into dark crevices. Deep within the vibrating fissures, millions of aggressive black driver ants awaken, raising razor-sharp soldier mandibles toward the sunlit surface. Surrounded by savanna royalty, while an underground army stirs beneath, the badger braces for the ultimate survival clash of the day. As the standoff reaches fever pitch, the clay foundation fractures completely, unleashing an explosive subterranean eruption of biting driver ants. Millions of aggressive black driver ants burst out from the dark fissures, flooding the red earth like living black lava. The living black carpet sweeps rapidly across the clearing, surging beneath the paws of the encircling predators in mere seconds. Thousands of curved soldier pincers sink simultaneously into the lioness's sensitive paw pads, delivering burning waves of sharp, venomous pain. Shock and intense agony shatter the young male lion's predatory focus, his amber eyes widening in helpless, stinging confusion. Roaring in distress, the 3 massive cats leap and stomp frantically, their disciplined ambush instantly collapsing into total disarray. Ants swarm aggressively over the honey badger, but scissor-like mandibles slide harmlessly off its impenetrable 6mm rubbery hide. Completely impervious to the insect assault, the solitary warrior stands firm amidst the swarming chaos, watching the pride crumble. Sensing the dramatic shift in power, the honey badger curls its lips, preparing to turn the tables on its tormentors. Lunging across the crawling carpet with an explosive, rattling roar, the badger charges straight at the panicked young male lion. Snapping powerful jaws within inches of the lion's stinging muzzle, the fearless mustelid drives the giant backward in total humiliation. Blinded by panic and biting ants, the young male lion turns tail and sprints away across the dusty red plain. The 2 lionesses flee into the dense acacia thickets, scattering in defeat before an army of 6-legged miniature warriors. With a violent shudder of its stocky torso, the badger shakes loose clinging insects, completely unharmed by the double siege. Standing undefeated atop the fractured mound as crimson sunset fades, the honey badger claims ultimate mastery over the African wild. As the crimson sunset fades into deep violet dusk, the frantic chaos at the termite mound slowly begins to subside. Dropping temperatures force the cold-blooded driver ants back into their subterranean crevices, leaving the battleground strangely silent and deserted. Opportunistic as ever, the badger scoops up a cluster of lingering soldier ants, crushing them for a quick burst of protein. Stretching its muscular spine in the cool evening breeze, its stocky frame shows no lasting damage from the intense encounter. It methodically grooms its front paws with a rough pink tongue, cleaning away red clay dust and minor superficial scratches. Turning away from the fractured mound, the solitary warrior sets out across the open plain toward its original home territory. Trotting smoothly from right to left across the cooling dirt, its heavy curved claws maintain an untiring, steady territorial rhythm. The vast acacia scrubland settles into peaceful twilight silence, where the fiery drama of daytime survival gives way to cool shadows. Weaving between thorny acacia silhouettes, the badger navigates the darkening landscape using keen memory and an infallible sense of smell. Dark nostrils flare in the crisp night air, confirming that no rival mustelids or large predators cross its immediate path ahead. Pausing beside a dead acacia trunk, it surveys the open plain under the first faint twinkling stars of the night. Inspecting an old burrow entrance in the sandy dirt, the nomad finds it abandoned and suitable for a brief stop. Yet with ample stamina remaining, the restless wanderer chooses to keep moving, determined to reach its secure rocky home ridge. Stepping back into the cool breeze, its silver mantle gleams softly beneath the emerging celestial canopy of the African night. Marching steadily into the deep nocturnal expanse, the honey badger continues its endless odyssey across the timeless African savanna. Trotting through the cool midnight air from left to right, the honey badger enters an open graveyard of scattered, bleached bones. Its dark nostrils flare, catching the rich scent of rich marrow alongside the pungent musk of an active savanna scavenger. Standing over an old kill, a solitary spotted hyena crunches heavy leg bones with jaw power capable of splintering solid ivory. Spotting the approach, the hyena raises its heavy head, letting out a high-pitched whooping giggle across the moonlit plains. Completely indifferent to the scavenger's formidable size and crushing jaws, the honey badger marches straight toward the disputed bone cache. Towering 3 times the badger's height, the hyena lowers its sloping shoulders, baring massive teeth in a dominant warning. Lowering its skull, the badger unleashes a furious rattling roar, bristling its white mantle to project supreme fearless authority. The hyena lunges with a rapid snap, but the badger's loose rubbery hide rolls freely, letting the strike slide harmlessly. Twisting instantly within its pliable hide, the badger snaps viciously toward the hyena's front ankle, forcing a startled retreat. Unwilling to risk a crippling bite to its legs, the hyena yields the ground, trotting away into the darkness. Stepping over the prize in total victory, the honey badger claims the dense marrow bone left behind by the retreating scavenger. Massive molars crack through thick bone shafts, allowing its pink tongue to scoop out nutrient-dense, calorie-rich marrow. Licking its dark jaws clean under the moon, the energized survivor shakes loose bone dust, ready to complete its journey. Trotting purposefully from left to right beneath the glowing Milky Way, it maintains an untiring pace toward the familiar granite ridge. Reaching the base of the granite Cobra fortress in late-night stillness, the badger prepares for the final dawn of its journey. Climbing through the cool pre-dawn shadows, the honey badger scales rugged granite slabs, heading toward the highest rock ledges. Curved front claws find secure purchase in narrow stone cracks, pulling its stocky body upward with practiced mountain agility. A narrow rocky terrace overlooks the vast sleeping savanna below, bathed in the soft silvery glow of fading starlight. Perched atop a red boulder sits an adult caracal, its long black ear tufts twitching in the pre-dawn breeze. With tawny red fur and sharp amber eyes, the feline predator freezes, assessing the low-slung intruder stepping onto its rocky territory. Stepping onto the open ledge, the badger holds its ground, refusing to yield the narrow pathway to the agile cat. Bristling its silver-white mantle, the mustelid rattles a deep guttural hiss, warning the feline that fight means severe mutual injury. The caracal flatters its tufted ears and raises a sharp-clawed paw, hissing a tense warning across the cold stone. With lightning reflexes, the feline unleashes a rapid feint strike, testing the badger's defensive reach with razor-sharp claws. Twisting inside its loose skin, the badger easily ducks the strike, snapping its jaws upward in an instant counterattack. Recognizing the badger's indomitable toughness, the nimble caracal leaps gracefully onto an overhead boulder, breaking off the clash. Watching from its high perch, the feline acknowledges the unspoken truce, allowing the fearless warrior to pass beneath undisturbed. Unbothered by the agile watcher, the badger ambles steadily along the stone ledge, claiming full right-of-way. Across the eastern horizon, the deep indigo night sky begins to soften with the first pale amber hints of dawn. Reaching the summit plateau as morning approaches, the indefatigable survivor looks out across its vast, sun-bound savanna domain. Descending from the granite kopje at first light, the honey badger returns toward the familiar territory where its journey first began. Trotting smoothly across the golden savanna plain, its silver-white mantle glows under the brightening rays of the fourth morning sun. Ahead lies the fallen acacia tree and the ancestral dirt burrow, standing undisturbed beneath the vast, sunlit African sky. Lowering its black snout to the dry earth, the nomad inhales deeply, confirming that no intruder has claimed its home. Squatting low against the red clay, it rubs its scent glands and scrapes the soil to renew its territorial boundary. Breaking sharp digging claws against the weathered acacia bark, it leaves prominent visual and olfactory marks across the home perimeter. A subtle vibration beneath a flat stone catches its attention, signaling rich subterranean prey lurking in darkness right outside its doorstep. Hooking powerful front claws beneath the heavy stone, it heaves the rock aside and tears furiously into the soft dirt. Uncovered in the excavated cavity rests a massive black burrowing scorpion, brandishing its lethal venomous stinger in fierce defensive fury. Completely indifferent to the venomous stinger, the badger clamps its jaws down instantly, crushing the armored arachnid without a single hesitation. Heavy molars grind through tough black chitin, swallowing the succulent protein that will sustain its energetic den renovation work. Licking its dark jaws clean in the bright morning sunlight, the satisfied master turns directly toward its primary underground fortress. Stepping into the burrow mouth, it begins vigorously kicking out loose sand and dry debris accumulated during its long absence. Great plumes of red dust spray backward through the air as curved steel claws widen the deep underground living chamber. Emerging from the refreshed burrow onto the sunlit savanna, the undefeated honey badger claims absolute dominion over its timeless home. Leaving its refreshed burrow behind, the honey badger sets out on a mid-morning patrol, securing its expansive home territory boundary. Trotting across sun-drenched red dirt from left to right, its low-slung body moves with effortless power and relentless territorial purpose. Sniffing the warming breeze, it detects familiar foraging activity around a cluster of low-weathered red clay termite mounds ahead. Foraging actively across the red soil is a family of dwarf mongooses, small chocolate-brown hunters scratching for buried beetles and termites. A vigilant sentry mongoose chirps a sharp warning from a mound ledge, alerting its foraging clan to the incoming heavyweight. Perched high in an acacia branch, a hornbill joins the chorus, calling loudly as the savanna's sentinels coordinate their alarm. Aware that small mongooses pose no threat, the honey badger lumbers past the clay mounds with calm, unbothered territorial authority. Pausing near the base of a fallen dead branch, the badger hooks its long, curved claws into rotten wood to forage. Steel-hard digging claws effortlessly rip through dry, fibrous bark, exposing a rich cluster of fat, wood-boring beetle grubs beneath. Lapping up the nutritious grubs with its pink tongue, it savors the effortless meal while the dwarf mongooses watch safely nearby. The dwarf mongooses cautiously re-emerge from side tunnels, happily scavenging tiny insect scraps dislodged by the badger's heavy excavation work. Licking its dark lips clean in the bright morning sunlight, the badger turns, acknowledging the quiet harmony of the savanna ecosystem. Stepping steadily across the open plain from right to left, the master continues its broad circuit around the outer boundaries. The sun climbs toward high noon across the African wilderness, warming the cracked pale earth and stirring golden dust devils. Surveying the boundless plains from a low rise, the indomitable survivor stands resolute as the final afternoon of its journey unfolds. Descending from the low earth rise, the honey badger enters a dry scrubland clearing under the warm afternoon sun. Its dark nostrils catch an unmistakable scent, sharp and dangerously potent, lingering near a weathered termite mound ahead. Reared 2 meters high against the clay mound stands an enormous black mamba, opening its inky black mouth in warning. With coffin-shaped head and vertical pupils, the lethal serpent sways rhythmically, ready to deliver a fast neurotoxic payload. Where any other savanna animal would flee in terror, the fearless mustelid advances directly toward the striking serpent. The black mamba strikes with blinding speed, lunging forward through the air with fangs bared to deliver venom. Twisting with instantaneous reflexes, the badger rolls its loose rubbery skin, letting the lethal fangs slide harmlessly past. Countering with lightning precision, the badger lunges forward, clamping its bone-crushing jaws directly behind the serpent's skull. Heavy molars pulverize the venom glands and cervical vertebrae instantly, neutralizing the deadly threat before it can constrict. A minor scratch delivers a trace of neurotoxin, causing its eyelids to droop momentarily in a brief metabolic stupor. Within minutes, specialized cellular receptors neutralize the toxins, and the badger shakes itself awake with renewed, boundless energy. Starting from the crushed head, it methodically consumes the 2-meter reptile, devouring rich protein across the sunlit ground. Crushing through scales and dense muscle with powerful molars, the hunter digests the formidable prize with complete efficiency. Licking its dark snout clean in the late afternoon sun, the victor shakes loose dirt from its silver mantle. Standing undefeated atop the termite ridge as amber light deepens, the master of the savanna prepares for sunset. Across the wide expanse under a crimson sky, the 3 lions pause atop the distant ridge, gazing back at the mound. The young male lion watches thoughtfully, his amber eyes reflecting newfound respect for an adversary that simply refuses to break. An experienced lioness turns away first, leading the pride away from unprofitable conflict into the vast, cooling savanna. Taking one last glance over his shoulder, the young male follows, conceding the territory to its rightful armored champion. The ridge stands silent and empty under the emerging stars, marking a peaceful end to days of fierce confrontation. Turning away from the termite fortress, the honey badger sets a steady course toward its ancestral acacia burrow home. Trotting smoothly from left to right across the cooling sand, its low-slung body maintains an untiring, steady homeward pace. With calm, dark eyes reflecting the evening stars, the survivor moves with the quiet confidence of an undisputed sovereign. Night descends fully over the ancient wilderness, draping the vast acacia plains in cool shadows and brilliant starlight. A calm documentary male voiceover narrator speaks off-screen in English natural wildlife document. Pausing beside a fallen acacia branch, it inhales the familiar scent of home, signaling the final threshold of its epic trek. Reaching the perimeter of the ancestral burrow beneath the twisted acacia roots, the nomad arrives at its unbreachable fortress. Inspecting the clean, widened tunnel opening in the starlight, it confirms the underground chamber is secure and ready. With a vigorous shake of its stocky torso, it clears away the accumulated dust of 60 minutes of grueling wilderness trials. Standing undefeated at the threshold of its home beneath the evening star, the honey badger prepares to close its epic survival chapter. Pausing at the threshold of the underground burrow, the honey badger turns outward for one final look at the quiet plains. Squeezing backward into the narrow subterranean tunnel, it descends into the cool, sheltered darkness beneath twisted acacia roots. Heavy curved front claws guide its stocky body down the smooth dirt passageway, away from nocturnal wind and savanna predators. Reaching the expanded underground sleeping chamber, it stands in absolute safety within an earthen fortress dug by its own claws. Circling twice on the soft red sand floor, the weary warrior lowers its muscular body into a warm, comfortable hollow. Tucking its heavy front paws beneath its chest, Its rhythmic breathing slows as tension drains from hardened sinews. Resting its chin on cool sand, its dark eyes gaze toward the faint starry light filtering down the entry tunnel. 60 minutes of grueling savanna survival tested every reflex, from venomous vipers and raging wildfires to an apex lion pride. The dark crescent scar over its shoulder and torn ear remain proud badges of battles fought and survived. Heavily hooded eyelids gently close in the subterranean dark, surrendering to deep, restorative sleep beneath the African earth. Outside, the acacia tree stands sentinel above the hidden den, bathed in the tranquil silvery glow of fading starlight. The vast savanna stretches silently beneath the celestial arch of the Milky Way, at peace after days of relentless turmoil. Deep underground, the sleeping champion breathes slowly, its miraculous immune system fully recharged and ready for tomorrow. True survival on the savanna is not about size or numbers, but the unbreakable will to endure every chaotic storm. Resting in the heart of its ancestral den, the immortal mustelid waits for the final golden sunrise to break. Deep in the underground chamber, dark eyelids flutter open as the first warm rays of dawn reach the sleeping warrior. Stretching its muscular limbs in the soft red sand, the honey badger rises fully energized for a brand new day. Trotting steadily up the excavated dirt tunnel, it heads toward the glowing golden arch of the burrow entrance ahead. Emerging beneath twisted acacia roots, the fearless survivor steps out into the brilliant morning sunbeams bathing the peaceful savanna. A breathtaking golden sunrise floods across the vast African plains, bringing renewed warmth and life to the ancient wilderness. Standing atop the fresh dirt mound, it inhales the crisp morning air, reading a revitalized world free of danger. With a vigorous shake of its silver mantle, morning dust flies into golden sunbeams, displaying vibrant health and power. Stepping off the burrow mound from left to right, the indomitable nomad strides out onto the open savanna grassland. Across the dew-sprinkled plain, a herd of graceful impalas grazes quietly under the soft golden light of dawn. The antelopes look up with calm curiosity as the badger walks past, acknowledging the peaceful rhythm of the morning. A small family of zebras grazes alongside the trail, their bold black and white stripes glowing under the warm rising sun. Pausing beside a clear dew pool near fresh green shoots, the badger lowers its snout to lap cool water. Lapping rapidly with its pink tongue, it absorbs pure hydration, completely rejuvenated after days of intense survival challenges. Climbing a low grassy rise, the badger pauses to survey its boundless territory, stretching to the distant horizon. Standing tall in the radiant morning light, the undefeated champion prepares to greet the timeless future of the wild. Bathed in the full golden brilliance of the morning sun, the honey badger surveys the boundless savanna it has thoroughly conquered. Its dark amber eyes reflect an unbreakable spirit, forged through 6 minutes of relentless life-or-death challenges across the African wild. Stepping off the grassy rise from left to right, it strides through yellow plains where antelopes and zebras graze in peace. From lethal vipers and raging fires to an encroaching lion pride, every obstacle was met with fearless, calculated defiance. Steel-strong claws that excavated countless tons of dry earth now grip the red soil with effortless, unhurried precision. Its stocky, low-slung body moves in a smooth, rhythmic trot, carrying the living legacy of Africa's most tenacious mammal. The ancient savanna stretches endlessly beneath clear blue skies, an unforgiving theater where only true resilience earns the right to live. The healed crescent scar on its shoulder stands as a permanent testament to encounters survived and lessons mastered. Rounding the final acacia thicket, it returns toward the cool earthen fortress resting beneath the roots of the fallen tree. Warm sunlight illuminates the refreshed dirt mound where security, rest, and tomorrow's endless possibilities wait in subterranean quiet. Standing proudly at the burrow entrance, the solitary warrior turns its gaze across the vast, shimmering grassland once more. Inhaling the rich scent of sun-warmed earth, its chest heaves with the quiet, dignified pride of an undisputed savanna champion. Stepping gracefully into the dark tunnel, it prepares to rest, having proven that courage and endurance conquer all odds. Survival is not about grand glory or final victory. It is the daily permission to rise and try again tomorrow. As the sun climbs high over the African wild, the legend of the fearless honey badger endures forever on the savanna.